Look at that dude over there, role-playing out his goblin as though it were a character. Abandon all hope, for that man must be under the Matthew Mercer effect. Avert fine gaze, good sirs. G'day mates and fellow adventurers, my name is Mordecai. With the rise of Critical Role, there are a lot of other campaigns that are likewise live-streamed and uploaded as videos, as entertainment for the masses. With Critical Role being treated as a de facto leader in this genre of entertainment, the Matt Mercer effect was coined as a phrase for expressing when certain elements of tabletop role-playing appear to have been inspired by Critical Role specifically, which in turn results in a lot of problems being described as a result of the Matt Mercer effect. And sometimes this results in common elements such as respect for the players and role-playing to be labelled as such, often unfairly. That said, problem players and dungeon masters have existed long before the existence of live-streamed campaigns. And as an Australian, I don't even know if that is an appropriately hot take, but let me cook it on the barbie for a moment. To keep this take fairly simple, it is more like the Matt Mercer effect has been added to a list of phrases that can be used as scapegoats for refusing to get certain problems resolved. Just like in the story for this video. Before we get started with the story for the video, if I get to 1000 subs before the end of 2023, I have plans to cover an RPG story, which predates the subreddit and contains one of the most infamous characters in all of tabletop role-playing game history. Also, be sure to stick around to the end if you want to hear my thoughts on the Matt Mercer effect. Let's delve into the often terrifying world of r/RPG horror stories. Today's narrative is titled DM Kicks Me Out for Being a Fan of Critical Role, and is written by user NoHearing8995. So, a long-time friend of mine who has played in several of my campaigns, and I have been in several of his, has recently had a huge falling out with me that I feel is super unjustified. I have been playing D&D since February of 2018. He has been playing since October of that same year. Both of us were players in a mutual friends campaign. That mutual friend of ours ended up moving away, and I took up the role of being the group's dungeon master. And so far, I haven't had many complaints over how I've done it, and if people have had them, I've been open to criticism, and I change accordingly and have run a total of 4 full campaigns now. In that time, my friend, who we'll call Drew, also took up DMing. He wanted to run a game where the essential premise was, I have no clue how to DM, I'm making it up as I go, but don't take it too seriously. Which is fine, I'm on board with that, let's go. We end up finishing that campaign, and as a result, he has a lot more understanding of what to do and what not to do. We move on to him making a second campaign of his, which he told us would be an open world, you guys make the story type of campaign. Which, again, I'm on board with that, let's go. Instead, he started hardcore railroading us only into encounters he wanted to do, and none of our choices affected the game in the slightest. At one point, we had an overall group stealth roll average of 35, due to everyone rolling a natural 20 with Pass Without a Trace being active. We were spotted immediately coming into view of the city we were trying to sneak into, because he didn't want to have a assassin military op on his evil mayor or whatever. And rather than just saying, my bad, it won't happen again, he scrapped the full campaign. He then says he's going to run a module, so that he doesn't have to come up with a story that we're all just going to complain about. I don't think we were complaining all that hard though, but I can't say how we made him feel. So the plan was to run through Curse of Strahd with a few homebrew tweaks to make it interesting. These tweaks being, we did not gain health back on a long rest, we only gained back our proficiency number of spell slots and abilities on said long rest, and we could not take short rests under any circumstances. Naturally, all of us were against this, as that's absurd for Curse of Strahd, and it took me and 2 other players 2 weeks of asking him not to do that, because we would not have fun if we ran with those rules. He eventually caves, citing that he gives in to your guys complaining, and ends up running the module as it is written. Now, I'm playing a goblin, in which I know in most settings are pretty ostracized and a lot of common folk hate them, and I was expecting and prepared for some mean comments and unhelpful people and prejudiced, but oh boy. Every single NPC the party spoke to wouldn't even allow me to speak, under threat of death. If I talked above board, the DM outright ignored me. In combat, I would be targeted by all enemies until unconscious because goblins need to be slaughtered. Out of game, I asked if I could sit down with him and talk to him, to which he agreed, and I voiced my complaints by saying, "I feel like you're having fun exclusively at my expense, and I want to have fun with you and our friends." Now, this also wasn't the first time he had done this. In that second campaign he scrapped early, and a Spelljammer game that he was running at the same time as Curse of Strahd bi-weekly, he had gone immeasurably out of his way to make my character specifically struggle, and would only stop once other party members called him out on it. I told one of my friends who's also been in all of these campaigns alongside me that I spoke with him and told him how the conversation went. He told me I should call Drew and reiterate my point of I'm not having fun and would like to as well. And so I did. In the middle of the phone call, Drew then hung up on me and then sent me a massive text saying, "I am a new DM. I'm never going to be as good as Matthew Mercer. Stop bloody expecting me to be perfect all the time. All you do is whinge and complain and ruin my fun." Now, I have never asked him for anything in the campaign other than to have fun. I don't tell him how to world build, I don't tell him how to run combat, I don't tell him how to do anything unless he asks for a rule check, in which case I Google it and that's it. It's also worth mentioning that Drew is also a fan of Critical Role, so I have no clue why that's what he chose to blame it on. Anyway, my response to him was, "I'm not asking you to be Critical Role. I'm saying that you're making me feel like garbage, and that you can only have fun at my expense. It's a game where we're all friends. I want to have fun too with all of you, and currently I'm not because treating me like garbage seems to be the only way you enjoy it. And me calling you out and treating me like garbage is just making you mad." He then posted in our campaign group chat that I have unreasonable expectations of him and will no longer be participating in my story. And then he kicked me from the chat and blocked me everywhere else. Since then, 3 of the other 4 players have also quit, and now he just DMs for his wife, which just acts like an echo chamber for him and takes his side no matter what. So, all in all, I have felt so much less stressed out in my life that my therapist says I seem healthier than I have ever seen you before, so I guess in the end it's a massive W. I just needed to vent, I guess. But also to any newbie DMs reading this, the only expectation you should meet is having fun. You don't need convoluted plot twists and expansive worlds and lore, just ensure everyone has fun, and if someone tells you that they're not having fun, ask why and how you could fix it rather than play victim and blame them. Not everyone is out to get you, sometimes they're just not enjoying themselves. Also, for anyone who's going to ask, he had been DMing since January of 2019. This event transpired in February of 2023, with several campaigns under his belt, including his first one I played in, the 2 he ran for another group, the one he scrapped partway through, and then the 2 modules. So his "I'm a new DM" just isn't a valid excuse to treat me like garbage. And that's where the story ends. Well, that's certainly an entire checklist of problem Dungeon Master issues that drew on through the story. Sure, if the problem DM claimed that they were inexperienced, that I could at least understand. But this new DM shut down any discussion involving feedback and criticism and prioritized his fun over having fun with the group. On top of that, this attitude of trying to win against his players, bullying them as a means of having fun at their expense, railroading them so that he could tell his perfect story. The biggest problem with this DM is that they don't understand that criticism makes everything better. It is a tool which can be used to improve. But instead of improving, he blames it all on the Matt Mercer effect. My advice for this would be that the DM needs to learn how to handle and incorporate criticism if they want to DM for another group in the future. After all, no one should try to directly replace Matt Mercer, but that doesn't mean that you can't improve your own DMing, and it doesn't mean that you can't act like a decent person who respects their players and has fun with everyone. It does, however, mean that maintaining this problematic behaviour is going to drive away players from your table, even if those players are your friends. Which also means we now need to talk about the Matt Mercer effect. In the case of this story, this is an example of a problem dungeon master creating issues and then using the Matt Mercer effect as a scapegoat to avoid improving at all costs. In addition to the walkabout nonsense that caused the collapse of the group, this does present its own problem in portraying the Matt Mercer effect as being entirely negative, implying that it can only result in disaster. My particular take is that the Matt Mercer effect itself is not good or bad by its own merits, and whether it is going to be positive or negative depends entirely on how the broader TTRPG community acts in regards to it. For example, if a DM takes inspiration from Critical Role and advances from "the dragon has killed a lot of people and looks menacing" to "the dragon stares at the party, blood dripping from its mouth, an expression of hatred across its face as it rears up to attack," I would be inclined to say that is a positive result of the Matt Mercer effect. This does bring us to another consideration, which is that the Matt Mercer effect itself is most likely going to have a diminishing influence as the show itself progresses. Perhaps it is unfortunate, but the main reason why I myself have not been paying that much attention to Campaign 3 of Critical Role is largely because it represents a shift in how they play the game. That being away from a more conventional experience that a majority of players are going to have and can relate to. Which is why I say that Critical Role has evolved into just being an entertaining table to watch that happens to involve Dungeons and Dragons. But even though it has shifted over to being more in line with a form of entertainment, it can still provide lessons and inspiration that we can still potentially learn from. It can still provide that reflective feedback that improves how people play at their tabletop role-playing games. And that's really the most I can ask out of it. Thank you for watching the video. If you like my content and want to see more or wish to support the channel, please hit the subscribe button and maybe leave the video a like. It's free to do, and every bit of support is highly appreciated. Also, if you wish to leave a comment but can't think of anything to write, let me know you've reached the end of the video by commenting, "Make the Matt Mercer effect a positive influence." Again, thank you for watching, and I shall see you all next time.